The first question comes from Vince Mercogliano. Vince, go ahead.
Hey, Chris, first of all, congratulations.
Thank you, Vince. Thank you. You too. How's the baby?
Doing pretty well. He's doing pretty well. He didn't want to sleep till about 3 last night, but we're hanging in.
All right, good. Congrats.
Thank you. So my question for you is, I'm sure there's excitement on your part, but I also know you've worked closely with JD and Jeff in the last couple of years. So what are the emotions like in this moment as you get set to replace those guys under these circumstances?
Yeah, it certainly was a whirlwind 24 hours, and not something I expected, and it was an honor and a pleasure to work with JD for the last 2 years. I grew up in Connecticut on No Baby, so it was great to get to know him and work with him and learn a lot from him. And Jeff Gordon, really can't say enough good things about him. The kind of person he is, what he did for me and for my career. I never met him before I came back to interview for the player development job, and since then has taken me under his wing, every step of the way. He's a great man, and I think a terrific GM, and I'm sure he's going to land on his feet, very soon. So
just like to hear your thoughts on where you think the rebuild is going and the direction that it was headed before these decisions were made, and where it's headed, where we'll be headed now.
Well, Carpe, for me, I don't think it's anything too drastic. I really, believe in what we have accomplished since the letter. We're able to do, and not only adding young assets and making some key trades, and signing obviously a marquee free agent and the bread man. So I think we do have a lot of good pieces. I think it's an exciting time for the organization. Just like every organization does when the season ends, we're going to take a look at everything and do what we can to take the next step and make ourselves a playoff team.
Along those lines, I'm curious, what have you identified, especially maybe in these last week or so, about how the team played against the Islanders and now obviously against the Capitals, of need for this team to take the next step and become that playoff team?
Yeah, it's been, like I said, a whirlwind 24 hours. I have a lot of thoughts and things that I'm looking forward to accomplish with this team. And again, I think we do have a lot of good assets. Again, we're gonna look at everything and try to figure out how best to take the next step forward. At this time right now, I'm probably not ready to dive into too many specifics.
My question is for Glen. As someone who did both jobs as both president and general manager, I know you're going to be there to support and advise Chris as needed. But what's the challenge in doing both jobs for one person? I mean, the last since you gave it up, it's been done by two different guys. So what's the challenge in one guy doing both jobs?
Well, I think in some respects it's actually easier, because you're more involved in everything, in every detail and every decision. You are the guy that has to account for it, and it's your responsibility to lead the team and to guide the team, and also take care of the scouting process with all the people that we have around the world scouting and try to bring talent in. And I think Chris is he's in a position where he's been involved in every part of the organization so far, and he's a great player in the NHL. I think he's going to be terrific at his job.
Chris, how would you personally evaluate how David Quinn has done with the team thus far? And he told us conversations haven't happened yet regarding where he stands with the organization. So when do you expect those to take place? And just how do you view his role and where the team has gone so far?
Yeah, again, it's been you keep using the same word, but whirlwind 24 hours, and I'm certainly not going to sit here and talk about anyone's job status in the organization publicly. I know it's been a wild year since we started. It's been well documented, everything the team has gone through on and off the ice. And again, we're going to take a look at every aspect of the organization when things end, and we'll start that process next week.
This is for Glen. I was just curious what your take is on the state of the rebuild and what the team is lacking now, and what you shared with Jim Dolan in that regard.
Well, I think the organization has been built very well in a lot of areas, and once once we sit down and start to talk to some of the people in the organization and listen to what Chris has to say in the direction that the team's going to go in, then we'll make some decisions next week.
Chris, I'm assuming you're going to have to do some hiring now, maybe a Hartford GM and maybe an assistant GM, et cetera. Do you have plans to do that?
Yeah, you know, Carby, I'm definitely gonna need to fill some spots, and you know, again, that a little bit that started last night in my head, and will continue, you know, over this weekend and into next week for sure.
Chris, you said it's been a whirlwind 24 hours. You didn't really see this coming, but did your conversations with James Dolan or Glen or whoever, did they begin just in the last 24 hours? Was this something that had been talked about, especially when you got promoted in February, as maybe an eventual possibility? Like, how did this whole thing kind of evolve?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm not going to get into, you know, personal details between conversations of Glenn and you know, Mr. Dolan and myself. And, you know, no, there was absolutely no promises made, you know, at any point.
Chris, I just wanted to follow up on a couple of things that you touched on. You have a lot of stuff to do, I would imagine. You know, so what would be job number one? I mean, you mentioned needing to hire some folks for Hartford, et cetera. Like, what's the top priority? I mean, the season's going to end on Saturday, and you have you know, year-end meetings and stuff like that. But what do you think needs to get done first?
Well, right after the Zoom, I'm going to Marlboro to cheer on the Wolfpack. We got a big division game today with Providence Bruins, and if we win in regulation, we win the division. So that's what's happening next, Colin. You know, after that, again, it's going to be a deep dive into a lot of different things, and you know, be a lot of work for a lot of people in the organization. And you know, I know I have a lot of help in Glen and a lot of people, you know, back in Terrytown, and looking forward to getting after it.
My question's for Glen. I was just wondering if you can just clarify once and for all if any of the things that we've seen transpire in the last 24 hours with the GM and president's jobs had to do with the letter that was released this week with regard to player safety.
Yeah, I'll clarify that. That's an easy answer. They had nothing to do with it. Absolutely nothing.
Chris, you had a chance to get on the bench with these guys for a handful of games this season. What is your takeaway from that, and will that help you as you look ahead and make these decisions, because you were up close and personal for a handful of games?
Yeah, it was an exciting 6 games. You know, I hadn't been on an NHL bench since 2011, I believe. So, you know, to get on the bench and be that close, and you know, to hear and see things from that angle after being, you know, on the 10th floor for 6+ years, you know, was exciting, and definitely could learn a lot. You know, also I think the added benefit to it was, you know, our Hartford coaches were there with me and got to work with them in a way that I hadn't, you know, previously. So overall, it was a real good experience, and you know, glad I got to do it.
Where do you feel like you are in terms of your readiness? How have you, the last 5 or 6 years when you've been, you know, working in the organization, how has that prepared you for this role? And then do you feel like, you mentioned having a vision in your plan for how you want to execute, is that like fully crystallized in your mind at this point?
Yeah, you know, there's no doubt in my mind. You know, I know I'm ready, and in all honesty, I owe that to Jeff Gordon. From the minute I got hired in development, like I said, he you know, put his arm around me and had me in every meeting, whether it was you know, with Mr. Dolan or amateur scouting meetings, you name it. You know, I was everywhere, and you know, was fortunate enough to learn from him, and you know, without question, you know, I'm here today because of, you know, how he treated me and helped me, you know, these last 6 years.
This is for Glen. You know, as an old school guy, do you agree with the narrative we've heard a lot from, you know, reporters and fans about the number one thing this team needs is a little more grit, toughness?
Well, I think when, you know, you look at the lineup that was playing Washington last night, and I was particularly proud of the way they reacted. They all stuck together. They worked hard. They defended each other. And, I mean, that's part of the whole team building process that young guys have to go through. And, you know, I talked to some of these kids after the game last night in the dressing room and asked them if they'd ever been involved or seen anything like that before. And virtually every one of them just shook their head. And I particularly, from the teams that I've been involved with, you know, you need a certain element of being able to defend your players, and it has to come from within the team. The team has to have a feeling for each other, to care for each other and support each other, and I certainly did that last night.
Given the drastic measures that took place yesterday, were the expectations actually for this team to do better, to be a playoff team? Was that kind of bottom line for you guys, or how do you think they achieved this season?
Yeah, I don't think that was the expectations. I don't think that was a mandate. Again, with all the ups and downs throughout the this shortened season, with the coaches getting COVID, players in on the lineup, injuries, our youth. I think overall we had some very good, positive, growing moments. Now it's definitely time to take the next step and turn those moments and turn our collective group of players into a team.
Chris, I just wanted to, you said your next priority is to go see Hartford play today, and I was just wondering, you have two recalls available, I guess, for the last two Rangers games. Are you going to use those? You're going to call two people up, and who might they be? Yeah,
excuse me. We already did call them up. You'll see it shortly. Just we have a hearing later today, which was announced for Buchnevich. Gautier's done for the season. We have another guy that aggravated something last night that might not be available. So Gettinger, Richards, and Brzezinski are up.
You said I think it's time to take the next step, and so I got to ask. Is the belief in the organization that you should be a playoff team next season, that the rebuild should be over and you should become a playoff contender next season?
Well, I don't know if there's a set timeline where I'm going to say, or anyone can say, the rebuild's over. We're looking deep, like I said, into everything in the organization to put ourselves in the best spot next October to get off to a great start and push towards making that playoffs.
Gentlemen, I realize that you can't just react to the fans, but the fan base did buy into this rebuild, and most felt like they wanted to see it last at least another season. So how do you react to that, and what would you say to the fans who wanted to give this administration another year?
Well, I don't think that we're doing anything too drastic. I think time will tell, and I think people will be excited with the steps we take and the moves we make, to keep moving this organization and this team along in the right direction.
Just for Glen, I know I don't expect transcripts of your meetings with Mr. Dolan to be shared with us, but could you, obviously you're still playing an important role, and that's why you're on this call. Could you give us insight a little bit into how often you speak to him and how you view your role still with the team?
Well, I've said since the beginning that when I got the responsibility of being an advisor and an alternate governor, that I would be available to anybody that within the organization that I can help. And that's exactly what I've been trying to do, is to try to make the team better. And if Jim asks me a question, I give him an honest answer, the same as I did with Jeff or JD or Chris now. And I'm not there to tell anybody what to do. I'm there to help them make a decision or counsel them to look somewhere else for an answer. But it's, I've been around this league for a long time, and I've seen a lot of certain things that I like and that I don't like, and I have an opinion on them. And when somebody asks me, I'll share it with them.
Hey guys, this is for either one of you. I just want to clarify and make sure we have this right, because it sounds like the plan for sure moving forward is for Chris to be both the president and the GM, and you're going to hire guys to work underneath him, but there wouldn't be somebody to work in either one of those roles hand in hand with him?
You got it right. I just wanted to say, a thank you to Jim Dolan, for this opportunity. Like I mentioned before, I grew up a Ranger fan in Connecticut, and it was a lifelong dream to be able to play for the Rangers and to be back in player development and assistant manager, and now to have these roles. It's a huge honor and a huge thrill, and to all the Ranger fans out there, I obviously take this very, very, very seriously, and my goal is to bring a cup to MSG, period. So thank you.